Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Success by the Numbers, your show to help you understand numbers in your business better and to manage your business by the numbers. My name is Mona Tenjo and I'm your host, and I'm also the CEO of Work on Your Business. And today I'm super happy that we have a really amazing guest that I definitely want to share with you. We have Dr. Alan Cabello, originally from Mexico, if I remember correctly, now located in Zurich. His doctor, he holds a PhD in human-centered innovation processes, which is something super exciting we are going to go into. He also holds a Master of Science in Management, and his origins are in engineering, and by that specifically in mechatronics, which is also very interesting to learn about how you came from mechatronics into management and into human-centered behavior, which is very interesting in terms of change. He's also the co-founder of Sparkademy. We're going to go into what exactly this is. And he's also the founding partner of SparkWorks AG in Switzerland, in Zurich. Which is a strategic innovation company and one of the leading ones in Switzerland. So welcome, Alan. It is so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Mona. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. And I mean, I'm so happy it worked out because we just met us like not even a week ago on Saturday. And so glad it worked out that fast. I mean, I met Alan, to be very honest, and I heard about his background and I was like, we have to make an interview because this is so interesting what he's doing. And I think it's going to be a learning lesson for everybody on the show because what he's doing is really, really interesting, not only in terms of business, but also in terms of applying what he's doing to his customers. So maybe just to introduce yourself, I just mentioned some of the key facts, but maybe please add a little bit of your backstory. So how did you get to where you are today? Like share a little bit of stuff on your journey to success today, please.
Well, success is to be defined. But so yeah, I am originally an engineer. I studied mechatronics engineering, looking into the automotive industry, actually. Very passionate about cars, not very popular these days. I focused on I specialized in engine design and combustion engine design. And when I graduated, the automotive industry was in shambles. So that was not an option. I started working at ABB, designing control systems for power plants, actually, which was essentially the underlying logic that went into an analog power plant, combined cycle power plants, and then digitalizing that. So that was kind of my first job. I became a team lead shortly after. And then it was through ABB that I came to Switzerland to do this master's in management. And then the crisis hit and I was basically asked to either come back or quit and stay. So I stayed. And while doing that, I met Professor Christopher Tucci, who basically pushed me towards this like innovation side of the story. And he sent me to Stanford. I was at Stanford studying.
This is just, guys, Stanford, like Harvard, Stanford, right? So congrats on that.
That was an amazing experience. And there I analyzed 13 different large companies that used design thinking as their underlying innovation process, as well as a group of startups that go through an accelerator program called Launchpad. So I was trying to see the difference between how large companies as well as startups apply these human-centered approaches. I came back to Europe. I was in Berlin for a year, looking at the cross-cultural difference between Silicon Valley and other places, because again, Silicon Valley is a wonderful bubble, but it's almost impossible to copy paste anything you read from there. So my professor at Stanford sent me to Berlin to look how things were being done there. And from there, I came back to Switzerland and started an equivalent school here at EPFL and ETH, which are the Swiss Federal Institutes of Technology, called Spark Labs. We started bottom up, basically with one class. Now we have about 300 to 400 students every year, and always looking at challenges given to us by industry, and the students tackle them from a human-centered perspective. So not from a technological standpoint, not from a business standpoint, but always from a human needs standpoint. From there, spun off a company called SparkWorks, which is a consultancy, as you mentioned. Clients started asking if we could do more. So we set up the company. Company's been around for 4 years. My partner, Linda, she runs and manages the company. And it's been, I think we have continued good growth of about 150% every year. So we've been quite successful. And finally, from there grew another company based on a client project, which developed into Sparkademy, which is focused on corporate trading at scale, measurable corporate trading at scale. So those are kind of the things I've started. In the meantime, I've also worked for Allianz as an innovation manager, started a couple of other things, succeeded, failed, was into blockchain for a couple of years. So very, very varied path, but always under the theme of innovation and new product development.
That sounds really, really great. I think this is a story many people can relate to, because I think almost no CV is straight up and just moving straight on. And I think you need those hiccups maybe also to really find yourself and know where your passion really is.
Don't tell HR, right?
Yeah, which is interesting from mechanics to HR, you know, so it's quite a big jump. So do you still use any of your mechanics background in your current activities?
I think an interesting part of a mechatronics degree is that you are an expert in all, basically, a varied number of engineering applications, but you're not an expert in any of them. And I think that if there was one underlying theme in my life, it would be that I know a lot about a lot of different things, but relatively superficial. My job really is to connect the dots. When it comes to in-depth expertise in one subject, that's a different story. And that's the same in mechatronics engineering. I know about, we did computer science, we did electronics, mechanics, electric, and it was about connecting these dots. And I think that's, if I would say, that's the overlying theme of my career so far.
And that's actually a very important one as well, because connecting the dots is even more important than being a specialist, because a specialist only has a little piece of the picture, but then the people who connect the dots are the ones who are earning the most money, by the way. No, because you need these people in order to put the pieces together. I mean, if you develop a car, for example, and you have nobody who's having an eye on the overall picture, you can have individual people developing individual pieces, but then nothing fits together at the end, which is like a mess. So if you have construction times of several years and at the end nothing matches, that's a problem.
And that happens quite a lot. On the other hand, also, like for a car, if it all starts with the tires, actually, and if you don't have a person who really knows what they're doing there, then so I think we call it a T profile. In design thinking, we talk about the T profile. So it's having in depth into something and then crossing towards different things. And I think finding a balance of people and of skills as individual and as a team is key to success.
Yeah. And so today you work a lot with humans and you look a lot of their behavior. So, I mean, we had on Saturday a short presentation about how COVID also changed the way people, or needs that people have in order to be innovative, and versus how they have to work focused, because this is different types of work, obviously. All my right brainers know that. Creative work is very different from focused work. And you need different environments for this. And so we discussed this on Saturday, which was the entry for our getting to know and having this conversation. So explain a little bit what you do. I mean, the claim of your business, pretty much, I looked it up. I did not magically know that. I looked it up. So it says upskill your team with measurable return on invest. So basically what you do is you train organizations on innovation, correct?
On innovation related topics. So it's everything has to do with transformation, agility, customer centricity. It's all these kind of behavioral skills that help us get from how the current business is now to where we would hopefully see it in the future.
Okay. So it's very human centered. So how do you measure that? If you say, okay, you have a measurable return on invest, how do you measure this? Because I guess you do have some type of metrics where you say, how do you measure the success of such an initiative?
Absolutely. So I mean, just to give you kind of an overview first of what we do. So we basically offer a program that enables corporate clients to assess and develop, let's say, creativity, innovation, and leadership skills for their employees. And we specifically target entry-level to middle management employees. Everything we do is very science-based, and our intention is to reach as many people as possible, so scalability, but also being mindful of the diversity of each individual. So our target is to be scalable but personalized. And in the end, we do this because we believe that we need to enable everybody to achieve their full potential through education. For me, education is my passion. And I come from a country where, let's say, the right for education is in the Constitution, and yet I've got a percentage of people in the country who cannot read. So, and I think that's education is essential to bring people out of poverty, but at the same time to bring people who are not in poverty out of unhappiness. Yeah. So for us, education is kind of a higher purpose. Now, we figured out a couple of different things that are challenging within corporate education. So corporate education generally happens in silos. So everybody kind of does their own thing in their own little part of the business, especially in large companies. It generally has a low impact. So nobody really knows what happens with it afterwards. And it's very poorly measured. So at most you get a survey at the end of the training, like, oh, what did you think? And the feedback you get goes from anything from, oh, I dislike the trainer, to, I think next time we should have salmon instead of chicken. So
this is so true.
these feedback forms are useless. But as long as you get a high score there, then learning and development in corporates will keep on kind of bringing you in. So our solution was really to think about an impactful cross-functional corporate education that is consistently measured. Now, how do we measure education? That starts getting a little interesting. So first of all, we assess the candidates that go through our program. So we take research in neuroscience and innovation from ETH Zurich with one of my partners, Professor Stefano Brusoni, and he essentially found certain cognitive elements that happen in your head when doing certain tasks. And you mentioned earlier this left brain, right brain, and there are certain elements that basically tell us how suitable, or I want to say suitable. Think about innovation as a spectrum. And some of us are closer to this type of work than others. What's interesting is that the parts of the brain that reflect this innovativeness are actually neuroplastic. So you can develop it. Mm-hmm. But when you're going through a large corporate program, you rather start with the ones who are really already there and get those first movers rolling and get those kind of low-hanging fruit, start showing results before you start converting the others. So we assess the participants to begin with and say, okay, these are the guys more suited. Second thing is online education has great content on it. You find a lot of content online. This is an example. The question is, how do we check if people actually learned what they're supposed to learn? And we've resorted usually to multiple choice tests, which anybody who knows anything about education will tell you multiple choices to test memory, not understanding or applicability. So we've developed different types of tests during the program to really be able to confidently say this person learned what they're supposed to learn. Mm-hmm. And finally, there comes the applicability standpoint. We essentially designed a program that is very, very connected to the actual work that they have to do, and they have to show the capacity to apply what they learned. And again, we measure that as well. So if you think about it from a data standpoint, we understand who these people are when they started. We're checking very, very kind of gradually as we go along, are they learning based on our learning objectives, what they're supposed to be learning? And finally, we check if they can apply it to a real business context. Mm-hmm. In doing so, we have a high degree of certainty that they're actually basically putting, let's say, this into work. Because when you train someone who doesn't want to be trained on something they're never going to use, you're throwing money away. Yeah. Indeed. So now the 14x return on investment that's on our website is actually the statement of one of our clients. And the way he calculated it, he looked at basically projects that are being run this year by people who've been trained by us. And that's basically new revenues or cost savings that have been a result of those projects. So it's not even about how many consulting hours were saved, or they're looking at the output. Mm-hmm. And so far this year, they've basically had a 14x return on investment. So that's how we got to that calculation. And for us, that's more impactful than saying, oh, you saved X amount of time in consultants because you use your internal people, but it's more about how much value did they create.
Absolutely.
And that's a client saying it's not our numbers. So that's very valuable for us.
Yeah. And that's super important. And I think whenever you put in a program, I think, and this is what I also see with my own clients a lot, they never really think about how do I measure the outcome? Like, how do I measure that what I invest really pays out at the end? And what is the criterion to really measure for that? I think many people never think about that. They invest money and they never really think about, but how am I going to get that back? Or how do I measure if I got it back? Maybe they did get it back and they didn't even realize it. Maybe they even 10x it and they didn't realize it comes back to that initiative because they never track where it actually came from and what caused that information. So same as if you go in marketing, you know, where did your clients come from? Same thing, you know, like if you invested in ads or if you got a personal contact, where did your clients really come from? Maybe you realize they're actually more from your network and you don't even need to maybe invest that much in advertising because they all come from your network. Maybe you should invest your activities more over there, right? But that tracing of where is it coming from and what is the result of that, I think is something that everybody needs to think about in their own business, to think about how can I apply this to my business.
Absolutely.
So thanks a lot for sharing that.
Yeah. If you have a clear process end to end at a very granular level, it's easier to see where things went out of the process. And sometimes that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But as long as we have a process in place, we know how far we've deviated from the process. So we always have a benchmark. Yeah. And if the process no longer makes sense, then we change the process. But we need to be able to measurably follow from entry to end. And that's what we've been doing. Maybe that's the engineer in me.
No, it's true. And I mean, I'm also a big fan of processes and having an overview of all the processes, because black holes in your business are a problem. If you have a black hole and you don't know what's happening there or where the money is going to, that is really a problem. You need to fix that immediately. So I'm a big fan of everything flows in the business. Everything is end to end. It all enters somewhere, it exits somewhere, you know, everything goes somewhere. Energy cannot be just lost. Energy always goes somewhere. Money also.
Money.
So if you realize money disappears in your business, something is wrong. It should not disappear.
Someone needs to get fired. Either you or someone who works for you.
Indeed. Awesome. So maybe with all the respect to time, because I know that you are super busy, one last question. So I also heard that you are an investor yourself. So next to educating all the students and making sure that companies have a better approach to innovation and being more innovative overall, you also seem to invest. So can you share a little bit about that? Because we have many people on this platform who are also investors themselves. Maybe there's an opportunity. So if you are interested in what Alan is saying, please feel free to reach also out to him and get in contact with him and discuss any project ideas or any possible collaboration. So you may want to share a few words about that.
Absolutely. I think for me, I'm off the cuff summarizing in 3 points. The first one would be kind of be aware of the trends that are happening, let's say, in an environment. I think if we look at trends versus current situation, we need to think of a startup as a 5 year down the line. So if you're looking at what happened, COVID, we should invest in a start. You're too late. Yeah. But if you think about what are the trends that are accelerated or moving because of COVID, then you're thinking down the line, and that's the right mindset to have. So it's about looking at those trends. The second thing, which is very classic, is looking at the team. Do these people? For me, the team should have, again, a mixture of, I mentioned this innovation of 3 different bubbles: the human, the technical, and the business side of things. And that's really, they need to be able to understand kind of the technology, obviously, but that's honestly the lowest denominator. Then do they actually understand what's the business to be made? If they don't, if they're just a bunch of nerds with a fancy technology, they should stay in the lab. But a lot of people like investing in technology because, the IP, but IP is worthless unless someone commercializes it. And you're not going to commercialize it as an investor. And finally, is there an actual need that they're solving? And do they understand that? So that's what I look for into team. And the third thing is, I think more towards the technology and the business. If you expect to only invest in your area of expertise, then you're losing a lot of opportunities. What's worked so far for me is I know a lot of very smart people who know a lot of different other domains, and I trust their expertise in telling me, okay, kind of this is a good opportunity in terms of that domain. So far, besides my own business, is one of the most successful things I've invested in is a startup called Preomics in Munich. Biotech, I have no clue whatsoever of what they're doing in a deep technical perspective. Very, very smart team. They satisfy everything that I just mentioned. But a close friend of mine who's also investing in them, he's an expert in that field. So I trust him, and I trust his in-depth expertise into that topic. It says, okay, this is kosher. And I think if you surround yourself by a diversity of individuals who have deep expertise in different, and looking at that in-depth thing, and you can trust them, and that's a personal choice, then you're more likely to find golden opportunities as you go along. So there would be kind of off the cuff three aspects that I think are really important.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. I think this is very important for anybody who also wants to invest in businesses. I mean, we have a lot of people who are starting to get into this topic slowly. We have many property investors on this platform, but also many people who start investing in businesses. So I hope you had some value from that, because I took notes, by the way. So our project management habit, I always take notes. Because I found this really, really valuable. So thank you so much for your time. I could still talk with you for hours, to be very honest. I found this super interesting what you share. Thank you so much for being here today. I don't want to hold you back any longer. I mean, I just want to give you the last word. How can people reach out to you? And is there anything final you want to share with our audience today?
Again, LinkedIn is usually the easiest way to find me. Cabello, Sparkademy. I'll pop up quite easily. But also, please feel free to share my contact details below.
Okay, so I will share your email address if it's allowed to.
Absolutely, and always happy to get in contact with other entrepreneurial, innovative minds.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for the invite, Mona.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. So guys, you heard it. There's a lot for you to do. So I would recommend you to go again through that interview and really take some notes for yourself and see how you can apply this in your business. Feel free to reach out to Alan. He's an amazing guy. He's really nice. He's really open. He doesn't bite. So please feel free to reach out to him. I'm going to share his information in the comments as well. Thank you so much for being on today. And guys, we see us back next week with another amazing topic. Stay tuned. Again, if you like it, if you share it, please talk about it. Please tell others. Please show it to people who need to see that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao.